Today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite Bible character. The name of this person is Zaphenath Paneah. Yeah, it's somebody that you know, but for the sake of the story, right now we're just going to call him Zaph. Zaph was born a Hebrew, the first son of his mother, but the 11th son of his father. When he was young, he had a prophetic dream. And in this dream, he saw sheaves of grains bowing down to him. Now, pay attention to that, sheaves of grain. It didn't stop there. In his second dream, a prophetic dream, he also saw that the sun, the moon, and all the stars were bowing down to him. And like every young boy his age, he decided to go tell his brothers and father. Of course, this caused his brothers to be enraged, and jealousy grew among them to a point where they despised Zaph. The Zaph brothers were so jealous and indignant that they decided to sell him off. So they sold him for 20 pieces of silver. 20 pieces of silver. Not only did they sell him for 20 pieces of silver, but they also faked his death by dipping his favorite coat into a blood of a sheep and then going back to his father and telling his father that he's dead. But the story doesn't stop there. We know that some slave traders from Egypt bought Zaph and they shipped him to Egypt. In Egypt, Zaph was bought by a slave manager. We're going to call him Potiphar. And Potiphar loved Zaph. He grew to become his favorite attendant in the house. This created a big problem for him because Potiphar's wife started to desire him. So much so that she held him one day and said, "You must have husband and wife relations with me." And Zaph was like, whoa, woman, I cannot do that because I cannot sin against God and I cannot sin against my master. And the woman said, "Nah, you must have me." And so she grabbed a hold of his coat, he left it in her hand, jumped out of the window from the second story or the third story. I don't know, it was a big house. Anyway, he escaped. But that wasn't the end of it because she decided to frame him. And then she screamed and called everybody in the house and said, "Hey, Zaph tried to have his way with me." This caused Potiphar to be enraged and threw him into prison. So Zaph ended up in prison. And then in prison, for some reason, the grace of God was still upon him because he immediately became the most important person in the prison. The prison warden put him in charge of everything. So much so that he was in charge, ruling, taking care of all of the affairs of the prison. Once again, showing his excellent skill and wisdom in everything, which is going to come to play eventually. A couple of years later, while he was still in prison, two of Pharaoh's direct servants were suddenly thrown into prison. Of course, they ended up under the care of Zaph. Now, as Zaph continued to take care of everything, one day they had a dream. Each of them had a dream on the same day. And they were troubled. And so Zaph came to them and said, "Hey, yo, dudes, what's going on? Why are you feeling so sad?" "Yo, brother, I have a dream, but I don't understand this dream. In this dream, I saw a vine bearing 3 branches of grapes. And these grapes was pressed into the cup of Pharaoh. Now, I don't understand because, he's kind of mad at me for something." "Oh, no. You don't need to worry. It just means that in 3 days, you're going to be restored and you're going to pour wine into Pharaoh's cup." And the Jude was like, "Whoa, you don't mean it?" He said, "Interpretation belongs to the Lord." And so the second person, also a servant of Pharaoh, was like, whoa. Actually, I also had a dream. And in this dream, I saw 3 baskets on my head and birds were eaten out of this basket. What do you think it means, Zaph? And Zaph was like, "Oh, well, so your dream may not be as good as the one that I just interpreted because for you, it means that you are going to be unalived in 3 days." This guy, of course, was sad. But then in 3 days, one of them was restored to the right hand of Pharaoh and he poured wine into Pharaoh's cup and the other was killed. Before these people left the prison, Zaph told them and said, "Yo guys, I've been here and I was unjustly put in this prison. So if you can please talk to Pharaoh on my behalf, to get me out of here, I would really love that." And we're like, "Yo, bro, we got you, no problem. We will. Years passed. They completely forgot about Zaph. He was there in prison, just, taking care of things as he normally does. But then Pharaoh suddenly had a dream. Now, Pharaoh is the king of Egypt. And so if he has a dream, he's going to invite everybody he knows to interpret it. And so he did. Everybody, all of the magicians, the wise men, and all the people that he can possibly think about. No one could interpret this dream. This made Pharaoh very sad. And so he started thinking, what am I going to do? Bam! This guy, the right hand of Pharaoh, who is now his cup bearer, suddenly remembers, wait though, there is this one guy that interpreted a dream for me and the chief baker while we were in prison, and the dream came to pass exactly as he interpreted it. Maybe we should try him. So they bring Zaph, and before he comes to Pharaoh, they change him, they clean him up, and cut his beards and make him look good, presentable. And so they present him in front of Pharaoh. And then Pharaoh goes into the dream. And Pharaoh says, I don't understand this dream. I saw 7 fat cows, and they were lush, beautiful, plump, and full of life. And then all of a sudden, out of the bank of the river comes this 7 other thin, skinny, gaunt cows, and then they head up the fat cows. In the same night, I went back to sleep, and then I had another dream where I saw these healthy grains at the bank of the river coming out, and they were lush and beautiful, 7 of them. But then all of a sudden, 7 skinny and completely withered grain comes out and devours these lush grains. What do you think the dreams mean? Zaph says, Pharaoh the king, both dreams are the same, and they have exactly the same interpretation. Now, here's the interpretation for the first one. You see, for the cows that you saw, 7 of them, big, lush, and full and plump, it means 7 years of plenty. There's going to be such a plenteous harvest in Egypt, unlike you've never seen before. But after those 7 years, there's going to come 7 years of extreme famine. Famine like you have never experienced, like your fathers and even your great fathers have never experienced. It is going to be so devastating that it will destroy everything. It will make the years of plenty seem like they never existed. And it's the same with the second dream that you had with the grains. It's the exact same thing. 7 years of plenty that will be devoured by 7 years of famine. So Pharaoh was like, dude, you are the only person that can do this. What are we supposed to do now? And Zaph says, well, what can you do? Create storehouses to gather everything from the years of plenty so that you can prepare for the years of famine. And Pharaoh was like, I don't see anybody more qualified to do this than you. Do you mind being the governor of Egypt? So Zaph was appointed governor. You got to understand that Potiphar was probably in the midst of those people that were there. And anyway, we ain't going back into his story. And so it was appointed the governor of Egypt. And then they started working. They gathered as many as they could gather in those 7 years of plenty. And then after that came the years of famine. It was so bad that every country in the world felt it. But the people of Egypt were living in luxury. They had so much and so plenty because of all that they'd stored from the 7 years of plenty. This made different countries around and cities and different nations around them to come to them to start asking for grain. Part of the people who sought grain was Joseph's family. And eventually they heard that, oh, there's food in Egypt. And so they decided to go there. The brothers, of course, those who sold him and those who betrayed him and sold him to Egypt, were the ones who took their stuff and decided to go to Egypt. By this time, you all should know that I'm talking about Joseph. And Zaph is just a nickname that I give him because of Zaphenath Paneah. But anyway, so Joseph, by this time, was completely transformed. Now, by the way, Zaphenath Paneah was the name that Pharaoh gave him after he appointed him the governor of Egypt. And so he had completely transformed. He shaved his head, he was dressed like an Egyptian, he looked nothing like a Hebrew. So by the time his brothers came and they wanted grain, they didn't recognize him, but he recognized them immediately. And so he thought, oh no, these are those people that betrayed me. I wonder if they're still going to be like that. So he tested them and tested them and tested them to a point of telling them that I'm going to give you stuff for free. And just put it back in there, put their money back in their bag with the grains, give it to them. These people were so afraid. They thought, oh no, what? They didn't take money from us and then they gave us all these grains. We're in so much trouble. And he said that just bring your brother next time. And he asked them, he interrogated them, do you still have this, that? I said, yeah, we still have brother. We lost one, he died. But we have one that is always with our father. He's our father's favorite. And, if he leaves the father is going to miss him and might even die from that. And then Joseph was like, yeah, you know what? I want to meet him. I want to meet your family. And if you cannot bring them, don't come back. And so they were like, okay. So they went with all the things and they took the money and everything. Eventually the famine got worse. They finished up the grains that they had. And so they said, yeah, we got to go back. And we cannot go back unless we come with Benjamin and Jacob. which of course is Israel now, said, oh, no, you cannot go with Benjamin, because if you do and he doesn't come back, you're going to send me to an early grave. Simeon and Judah said, and by the way, these were the two that actually plotted to sell him, when others wanted to kill him. They said, no, we vowed we would take care of Benjamin. So they go back to Egypt with Benjamin. Joseph sees them, burst into tears, but not in front of them, in a corner somewhere where nobody saw him. And then he came back and he pretended like everything was okay. And then he fed them, he gave them everything. He gave them the king's treatment. We're talking about the governor of Egypt here. And so by the time it was time for them to leave, he intentionally hid some silver cups and stuff in their pouches so that it would seem like they stole it. I have no idea why he was playing such a game with them. Why didn't he just come out and say, yo guys, I am Joseph? But no, he decided to play games with them. And so halfway in their journey, they realized that some of these things were in their bags and they turned back to come. But before they could make that decision, some of the soldiers of Egypt were already in pursuit. They caught them, brought them back. Boy, oh boy, these guys were crying. We're so sorry, we didn't know this. This is not our intention. Whatever you want to do. And Joseph was like, yo, no problem. I'm going to detain Benjamin. The rest of you can go. I was when Judah was like, okay, all right. You know what? This is what happened. The first one that was lost was our fault. And anyway, Judah went into this series of confession about how they lost the one that died, which was Joseph, obviously, and how if this one also doesn't come back home, their father is going to die. And he said, look, take my life. Basically, I think Joseph was just basically trying to find out if these people had changed. Because if these brothers who betrayed him were still willing to give their last born for food, then it means they're not changed. When he saw Judah's remorse and how Judah was like, no, please, absolutely not anything but that, he burst into tears. He just cried out in front of them, removed all the thing that he was wearing, and he screamed, brothers, it is I, Joseph. I am Joseph. And we're like, who now? I am Joseph. Who? No. And so they cried, over each other's shoulder, and it's such a beautiful story. And I think one of the things that really struck me in the story is that he said, what you meant for evil, God turned it around for good. Because if he had not gone to Egypt and he had not interpreted that dream for Pharaoh, probably the world might have ended with famine. And so this guy saved the world. This is the story of people who come from humble beginnings to go on to save the entire human race. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story. It's just a fun story that I love telling. By the way, Jacob and Joseph eventually reunite. They stay in Egypt for a long time. They lived happily ever after. The end. Cha-cha.